which he stands during class and swings his lacrosse stick, in which you cannot hear the sound it makes as it pushes itself through the particles in the air, as your music is louder than his general existence, in which he scoffs the word bitch, in which he makes you uncomfortable, in which he makes you feel unsafe, in which he is a 17-year-old boy who is in half of your morning classes, in which he is unavoidable, in which he is praised, in which he is idolized, in which, with every swing of his stupid stick, you realize he is a piñata of pain passed down from daddy, in which you do not look him in the eyes, in which he is bigger than you, in which you would like to think you are bigger than him, in which nothing will happen but this general fear of men will linger, in which you walk on the other side of the classroom, in which you walk on the other side of the road, in which you will have your male friends walk you home after parties, in which you still feel nervous with them, in which you will always feel nervous, in which he tells you about how he broke someone's arm in middle school playing a game, in which he giggles, in which he relates playing to pain, in which you cringe, in which you smile at him as you know no other response, in which you are gentle because you were taught it is unladylike to be storm-like, in which you feel sick when boys say bitch, in which you try to ignore it, in which you envision boys calling you a bitch, in which you convince yourself you are capsizing, in which you sit still, sit tall, in which he sits sloppy, sits mean, in which he yells during normal conversations, in which you become restless during these conversations, in which no one tells him to control his temper, in which you remember playground boys that pushed you, in which you remember teachers telling you it was affection, in which you remember your high school boyfriend pushing you, in which you convinced yourself it was affection, in which you never questioned your first grade teacher, in which boys will be boys, in which boys are not held accountable for their actions, in which boys are raised to be cats, in which girls are raised to be mice, in which you do not want boys to touch you, in which men will put their hands on your shoulder at your father's dinner parties, in which your father reminds you beforehand to be a little more friendly this time, in which you smile at these men, in which you do not focus on the conversation at hand, rather on how to pose your feet in order to make your legs look longer, in which you replay the tips your mother tells you on how to be beautiful, in which you are simultaneously obsessed with and apathetic towards the idea of being beautiful, in which he asks you if you are listening, in which you smile, in which he assures you it is okay, you are a woman, cars and work probably don't interest you anyway, in which you bite your tongue, in which you get used to the taste of blood, metaphorically, of course, in which you become aware you are a mouse, in which you become aware your boyfriend is a cat, in which you bite the cat, in which everyone recategorizes you, the mouse, as predator, and he, the cat, as prey, in which you are still the prey, in which everyone calls you a bitch, in which everyone tells you you are trying to ruin his reputation, in which you tell the honest-to-God truth for the first time in years, in which you learn to yell like a bitch, in which you learn to rain acid, in which you learn to fight like hell, in which you learn to stand up for yourself, in which you say no to boys, in which you do not explain yourself when they demand why, in which you learn to take up space, in which you learn to sit like a man, in which you learn how to not accommodate, in which you learn to stop apologizing, in which you learn to speak loud enough to be heard, in which you learn how to be taken seriously, in which you are called a bitch every time you try to be taken seriously, in which you are called bossy, in which you are objectified no matter how much you yell, in which he still puts you on a shelf no matter how hard you try to dent yourself in an attempt to become unappealing, in which you are still nervous around short-tempered boys, in which boys will be boys, in which girls will be dismissed, in which girls will be quieted, in which trans girls will be ignored, in which black girls will be ignored, in which Latino girls will be ignored, in which minority girls will be erased, in which girls will be called bitches, in which girls will be punished for the way boys look at them, in which girls will grow up nervous, in which girls will be raised differently than boys, in which girls will be told to be mice, in which girls will be set up against other girls, in which girls will be convinced everything is against them, in which girls will be deathly competitive, in which girls will die, in which girls will need support, in which girls are strong, in which girls are independent, in which girls are big, in which girls are vast, in which girls are important, in which girls need support.